Parisa Brody from the Observer's Desk of France 24 is with us on set. Hi, Parisa. So for a year now, your team has been on the lookout for false information circulating about the war in Ukraine, and the Observer's team has published a roundup with some statistics about the misinformation that has been spreading. This year, you debunked 115 pieces of fake news.
Exactly. So my colleague Lise Kinnaman, she actually wrote an article kind of summing up the misinformation that we've been able to look at this year. And for the observers, that's generally photos and videos. We look at visual misinformation, and it's by no means an exhaustive study, but it's something that we have been able to identify some major trends that sort of reflect the narratives that you generally see in misinformation that is used by both pro-Russian and the pro-Ukrainian camps.
So what are some of the different narratives that keep popping up when it comes to misinformation about Russia and Ukraine?
One of the major things that we've seen this year has actually been accusations of Nazism. That's claiming that the Ukrainian army and its leadership is all ascribes to Nazi ideology. And we wrote 22 different articles on this, and that kind of goes along with the same rhetoric that you see from Vladimir Putin, which was used by to justify the invasion of Ukraine. So what you're seeing here is actually one claim that we saw, one example. It's a book that is said to be written by the Ukrainian president, Mein Kampf. It's supposedly the same name as that of Adolf Hitler, but that book never existed. It was completely photoshopped. Now we are looking at another kind of narrative we've seen, accusations that the Ukrainian army has staged or faked the war. Those claims are that Ukraine is distorting reality by using actors in battle scenes. The video that we looked at there was actually just a music video, so it was not actors at all faking the war. That's on the pro-Russian side, but on the pro-Ukrainian side, we also have narratives like this, that Vladimir Putin is using actors or extras behind him at his speeches. That's something we looked at a lot. And in fact, if you look closer at the identities of the people that are seen in these videos, these claims don't really hold water.
So those are the narratives behind the misinformation, but how are these claims presented?
So we generally look at images, and it's nothing new, but the way that misinformation tends to be spread often is images that are taken out of context. One thing that we've seen a few times in this this year of war is video game clips that are actually presented as war footage. So you'll see here, this is from a game called Arma 3, which is a pretty realistic war video game, but this was shared online as if it was real footage from the Ukrainian war. But we've also been seeing something interesting, which is a lot of images that are graphically manipulated, so kind of made from scratch. They're photoshopped, or things like videos with special effects. So we can look at one example. I'll show you a video of Times Square in New York City, and you've got this big screen here that seems to be calling Zelensky, there you go, a black hole. And black hole because according to Russian narratives, he is often sucking money out of the West for the war effort. But we took a closer look at this video, and you'll see in the corner a logo from Fox News Digital, as well as the name of the Museum of Natural History in New York. So we decided to speak to both of these organizations, and in fact, both of them said that this ad and this footage was never actually broadcast. It wasn't real. It's just an edited video. Of course, you can't exactly rule out the idea that maybe somebody pirated this big screen and put this ad up here. But when we looked closer at the observers, we found no other videos that were taken from a different angle. Of course, there's thousands of people in Times Square. So we figured that it's more likely that this is just a video of Times Square that someone took and edited in this ad to make it seem like people in the West are really opposing their government's support of Ukraine. What we've basically seen from all these examples over this year of disinformation is that disinformation and misinformation tends to push a narrative and tell a story about the war in Ukraine. So in this case, for this example that we saw, the narrative is, of course, Westerners are completely opposed to their governments supporting Ukraine with money, with arms, and the problem here is that all the evidence you see is just completely manufactured and not real.
Parisa Young, thank you so much for that. And you can find more fact checks from the France 24 Observers team online at observers.france24.com. Moving on now.